Thank you, Kiru. Yeah, I get an opportunity of talking about the CSR from time to time, but today I'm talking as a researcher. So the paper that we did, what it is about, it's an analysis which was done in 2016, and it was done as part of a contribution to the conference organized by the military. It's called the Military Information and Communication Symposium of South Africa. The paper, I believe, remains relevant and valid for as long as cybersecurity enforcement is a key consideration. And I'm very glad that the reviewers agreed with me, even though the analysis was done several years ago. It is an analysis paper, and it analyzes the possible impact of the Cybercrimes and Cybersecurity Bill on the institutions charged with the responsibility to enforce it, as outlined then in Chapter 6 of the bill. It has since changed. The analysis is conducted using selected concepts from institutional theory, which we borrowed from the social sciences. Prof. Maraj will know, in information systems and informatics, we borrow from all the disciplines. So in this case, we borrowed from the social sciences. So the institutions of focus are key centers which were outlined in there, and the 4 centers which I'm just focusing on, which are described in here as institutions, are the Cybercrime Center, to be coordinated through the State Security Agency, the Cyber Command Center, to be coordinated through the Department of Defense, the Cybercrime Center, to be coordinated by the SAPs or enforced by the SAPs, and then the Cybersecurity Hub. Kiru has mentioned it, and then Suzanne has also mentioned it. So out of what is contained in the bill, we just focus on these 4. And the analysis looks specifically at the functional attributes assigned to each of these centers. It then borrows from those 4 as theoretical lenses, if I would like, if you like, 4 lenses. And I'm going to mention them once, and please remember them, because as I continue, I will be using them as a lens. And the 4 are symbolic acceptance by the community, stimulating viable social activities, enrolling public-private partnerships, and lastly, the resources impact on the institutions. So remember those 4, please. So I'm starting now with the actual analysis, now looking at, in other words, taking those 4 lenses and looking at the functional attributes and what those institutions were tasked with. I'm starting with the Cybercrime Center. If you look at the 10 objects and functions of the Cybercrime Center through the 4 institutional theory lenses, only 3 were clearly visible. The scholars in information systems say theory is a way of seeing, but also a way of not seeing. In other words, if you put some lenses, there are certain things that you will see, but you will ignore other things. There will be other things that you will not see. That's why theory is both a way of seeing, but a way of not seeing as well. So we looked at 10 objects and functions on the center, but we could only see three of them. And I'm going to mention the three: facilitate the analysis of cybersecurity incidents, trends, vulnerabilities, information sharing, technology exchange, and national security and threats in order to improve technical response coordination. The other one that was visible through the lens was to develop response protocols in order to guide coordinated responses to cybersecurity incident and interaction with the various stakeholders. And lastly, the third one, ensure the conducting of cybersecurity audits, assessments, and readiness exercises, and provide advice on development of national response plans. What comes out of looking at those functional attributes and objects through the lenses is the following. Regarding the symbolic acceptance by the community, response protocols developed by Cybersecurity Center for other organs of states and established CERTs, CSIRTSs, are relatively easy to conceptualize. In other words, it's easy to see the CERTs. Developing and obtaining symbolic acceptance by the broader communities outside government and corporate would need some innovative approaches, as communities may not even be aware that an incident in their locality may be requiring a coordinated response. With regard to stimulating viable social activities, the analysis of the cybersecurity incidents, trends and vulnerabilities, information sharing, technology exchange on national security and threats in order to improve technical response coordination could stimulate viable social activities. And information sharing platforms could be arranged at different corporate levels and society using specialized non-disclosure agreements. With regard to enrolling public-private partnerships, it's easy also to see the PPPs easily envisaged to conduct cyber security audits, the assessment, the readiness exercises, to facilitate this and to avoid criminalizing the work of researchers. Those involved in research, development, capacity building, and professional services must be enabled to develop, possess, and use software and hardware tools, access computers and networks, etc., with the aim to understand, test, and protect organizations and our national security. Some accreditation and/or licensing mechanisms may need to be put in place to effect this. And then the resource impact on the institutions. The other 7 functions, which are A, B, C, D, E, F, and I, and J, which are not visible through the lenses, suggest that huge resources would be required. In other words, there will be a huge resource impact on the institutions, both in human and material resources. In other words, the impact, the financial and the resource impact in terms of the implementation as it was envisaged then would just be enormous. Okay, and then on the Cyber Hub, I see Kiru is saying is pointing me in. He's saying I must conclude. So I'm gonna just mention what the lens was able to show from the Hub side. A look at the 13 objects and functions of the Cybersecurity Hub as outlined in the bill through the 4 lenses. 5 were visible. And the 5, I'm not going to read all the 5. I'm going to go to the actual analysis of what was seen. Here, symbolic acceptance by the community would be achieved when the Hub initiates cybersecurity awareness campaigns, and when it coordinates general cybersecurity activities in the private sector. And although still in its infancy at that time, the Cybersecurity Hub is in operation, and its official opening represented symbolic acceptance by the community. With regard to stimulating viable social activities, a cybersecurity awareness campaign, as well as coordination of general cybersecurity activism in the private sector, will stimulate viable social activities. So the Hub is very well positioned to initiate cybersecurity campaigns and activities for both civil society and private sector, and thus stimulate viable social activities. With regard to enrolling public-private partnerships, by encouraging and facilitating development of private sector sets and informing them, electronic communication services providers, vendors, and other persons or entities who may have an interest in cybersecurity, the Cybersecurity Hub would be enrolling PPPs. This will also be achieved when the Hub conducts cybersecurity audits, assessment, and readiness exercises on request. But regarding the resource implications, again, very huge from a financial and budgeting point of view. The Cybercrime Center, looking at the objects again from the 4 lenses. I'm not going to read them, but the lens enabled us to see 4. So 4 of the 10. Without reading them, yeah. Will you give me a little bit more? If
cover some of the stuff in the
yes. I'm just wondering because you get the gist of how the analysis was done. Perhaps I must move now to the conclusions or the discussion. If we take all of them together, the institutional theory analysis lens could be summarized as follows. Symbolic acceptance by the community, development of response protocols in order to guide coordinated responses to cybersecurity incidents and interaction with the various stakeholders. And unlike conventional crime incidents, cybercrime incidents may happen all at once in one location, making it almost impossible for the community to report observed incidents to the police. And that's difficult to build acceptance symbolism between the police services and the community. The Cybersecurity Hub is in its operation, and its official opening, as I said, represented a very good symbolic acceptance by the community. Enrolling public-private partnerships, easily envisaged to conduct cybersecurity audits and assessments. So, I am, because pressed of time, I am concluding. It is our conclusion that the use of the 4 concepts borrowed from institutional theory enabled us to gain some insight on the implications the bill has on the institution charged with the responsibility of enforcing it. Out of a total of 41 objects and functions assigned to the 4 centers, 10 from the Cybersecurity Center, 13 Cyber Hub, 10 Cybercrime Center, and 8 Cyber Command. The analysis assisted us in gaining some insight on a total of 17 of them. For the 24, our conclusion is that they will have much higher resource impact. What this indicates is that analysis such as this, borrowed from the social sciences, are needed to give us some insight in dealing with the challenges we face in the cyber domain. We do not only need engineers, computer scientists, and the others. We need criminologists, psychologists, lawyers, all the others to enable us to understand the whole domain in cyber. And therefore, instead of using the normal statistical analysis, we need to borrow from the social sciences in order to understand this domain. So here we have just demonstrated that a theory borrowed from the social sciences is capable of giving us some insight. Thank you.